All right. Welcome to the Weekend Eve. I am Brian Kress, the awesome voice, and across from me is my brother with another mother, Coach 24, Darwin Penny. How are you doing, sir?
Doing well, Voice. We're so glad to be here and excited about what this new year brings.
Absolutely. And behind the scene, the man that's in charge, Mr. DJ Scatter, George Walker. How are you doing, sir?
We're doing just fine here today, just fine.
Oh, that's awesome. So, and I'll tell you what, football is going, and it is awesome. And we had some great games this past weekend. And as you can see, we, Coach 24 and I, we are sporting Cowboys for something that they had not done since we were in our mid-20s, and we were totally in our prime. So they finally won a road game, and not only did they just show up, they didn't just beat them. They put a whooping on them like nobody's business.
Yeah, after a slow start with a couple of 3 and outs, a couple of drop balls, and inability to really get the running game started early. They got it dialed in 4 consecutive drives. They were able to score touchdowns. But there was at least some excitement in the game just with the kicker, Brett Maher, who has been relatively clutch all year. He was 29 of 32 on field goals this year, especially long distance. He's 5 of 7 at over 50 yards this year, but all of a sudden he couldn't make the 2-foot putt.
My gosh.
Got the yips. And until he had missed 5 consecutive going back to the Washington debacle the previous week, and then all of a sudden he finally made the last kick of the night. And so just a never a dull moment with my Cowboys.
I'll tell you what, it's almost like Murphy's Law. You know, they had a perfect game going outside of those 4 extra points. If they would have kicked those 4 extra points, you could have said that Dallas literally played a perfect game.
It was pretty close. Obviously, when you go back and look at what Dak was able to do, over 300 yards passing, 4 passing touchdown, 1 rushing touchdown, and he had a quarterback rating of 143, which was near perfect. I mean, he was over 80% passing on the night. The defense played well. They got a little bit lax late in the game, playing a kind of a prevent style where they had been pretty much in man coverage earlier during the game, and then they started playing a little soft zone, and so Brady was able to put up some what I call empty calorie numbers. I mean, you look at it, he passed for 360 yards, it looks like, but it was all meaningless. None of those really came at times where the game was ever in any kind of jeopardy. And so going in by 18 at the half, and the game was really never a close game, right, except for when it was a 6-0 game and Tampa's driving to tie and then potentially go ahead with the extra score. It's that stat that they always post. This guy hasn't missed a free throw in 100 free throws. Mm-hmm. Okay, they put that stat up there, and I said, okay. I said, come on, gods, do what you do. And the football god said, okay, you put that stat up there that he had been in the red zone basically for 3 years and not thrown a red zone interception over 400.
Technically 4 years.
Right, over 400 pass attempts.
Yeah.
And it looked like he was trying to throw it away but couldn't really step into the ball as he was trying to avoid a hit. And there it is. And then the Cowboys take the ball and march 80 yards for a touchdown. And at that point, the competitiveness of the game really went out, because then they get Tampa to go 3 and out and get the ball back, and then they march on another 80-yard drive. Mm-hmm. And now you're up 3 scores. But like I said, it just kept making it interesting because Maher – because then when he would miss the extra points, everybody now is doing their math in their head, or as my young kids call it, mental math, and saying, well, okay, how many possessions could they go for 2 couple of times and get back in the game? Right. But at the end of the day, there was no running game that was going to be able to help Brady get back in the game with any kind of play action pass. And so the ability of Michael Parsons and those guys just wasn't so much at sacks, but just getting him uncomfortable and getting him off his mark. And he was throwing balls in the ground, and he didn't look like Tom Brady by any stretch of the imagination, with the exception of probably the one pass to Julio.
Right, exactly. And, years ago, if you tried to blitz him, kind of like Patrick Mahomes, he would eat you alive. And that was not the case. In fact, that's what you wanted to do. He just was uncomfortable. He looked like a man that played a year longer than he should have.
He looked like Ali versus Larry Holmes, right? And there's always a guy. Boxers are notorious for one fight too many. Sugar Ray, the last time he fought Hearns, you just don't look like the guy that you were. And so, but it's been like that. It's not one game. We're talking about a whole entire season. Now,
exactly.
If you look at some of his numbers, some of the numbers that he had this year can be deceiving, in that he broke a record for the most completions and most pass attempts and all of that. But a lot of them were not at the time when they really needed them. And so we know we have a standard of excellence for Tom Brady that is second to none. And we expect him to go out and play at a high level. And now when you start saying things like he's playing well for a 45-year-old, well, again, that's not Tom Brady. Right? No 45-year-old has played quarterback the way he's played it, because that's unprecedented. But at the end of the day, he's not playing the way we've come accustomed to over the last 22 years.
Well, and it also didn't help that his receivers did not help him out with drop passes and just look like loss of focus.
Yeah, but that's been the whole year. This is not a one-time thing. They haven't been on the same page. The receivers are cutting the routes off either too short or they're running a little bit too long. It was always something, but those are the things that when your team is playing well, that don't happen. A team that's playing poorly, those things happen, and so that's what you see. And so, and at the end of the day, I don't want to take anything away from the Cowboys and the way they played. They have been interesting this year, to say the least, with back-to-back 12-win seasons. But other than opening day, they don't have a bad loss. They don't have a blowout loss. Right. They had two games that they let get away. We know the game against Jacksonville and the game against the Packers. They let those games get away. Right.
And exactly.
Lost, right. And the game against Washington, they just laid an egg.
Well, that was, you could almost say, okay, they were probably resting up because they had nowhere to go. They couldn't go up. They couldn't go down. They were
the only way anything could have happened, and that was obviously the way the league designed it, was for them to play those games at the same time. And so you needed a miracle for the Giants to beat Philly, and then you win, and then you also needed San Francisco to lose to get the 1 seed.
Right.
And so it was just all of those things, but they just went out and laid an egg against Washington. And so I know that created a lot of doubt amongst people's minds, and said, well, why would we think that they could win on Monday night against Tom Brady in playoff Tom and playoff Lenny? Fournette is going to come out, and when they laid an egg the week before,
right?
And didn't really look particularly well against the Titans the week prior to that. They really hadn't played a good game since they played Philly. When they beat Philly, that was a good game that they went out and they scored. But again,
even then, they thought, okay, you didn't have Hurts, so it was another excuse,
right? So they didn't score, and then Gardner Minshew threw some interceptions and turned the ball over, but they still put 40 points up on them,
exactly.
Right? And they've put points up all year. That's the one thing that they have been consistent. And then once Dak came back, they really were able to score about 35 points a game at that point, and really were, since his return, were the number one scoring team, right? And
yes.
So,
well, I think it was since he came back, which was week 7, he led the NFL in touchdown passes, but he also led the NFL in interceptions.
Right.
I think he had like 30 touchdown passes and 14 interceptions.
Yeah, it was 15, but who's counting?
Exactly. So now they go to San Francisco.
Correct.
So what do you see in that game?
I think the key to that game is going to be, can they control the ball a little bit and have some explosives from Pollard. They really need a big play touchdown that will really kind of take the crowd out of the game a little bit. And what you need to do is you need to see some more of what Dak did on Monday night, and also what Kellen Moore did. Kellen Moore called probably his best game of the season. He had balance on running the ball and throwing the ball, and then not give up. They're going to have to be better against the run against the 49ers than they were last year, and especially with the 49ers having McCaffrey. But I do feel like they have a team that can go and travel. When they bring their A game, they can play with anybody.
Yep.
Okay.
I totally agree.
And I feel like they're playing with house money because the 49ers are playing at home. They're supposed to win. They've won 12 games in a row. All these things. And at some point in time, that Cinderella got to turn back into a pumpkin, and he's going to play like a rookie quarterback. The question is when.
Right.
At some point in time. We don't know when it's going to be. The sad part about it is now he has no room to play like a rookie quarterback because every game is win or go home.
Right, exactly.
We wish he would have had one of those games in the regular season as he was closing out the season. But, it's going to come down to turnovers. Whichever team wins the turnover battle, I think, will win the game. But I really believe that the Cowboys can go there and win it.
Okay, and we will talk about that later before we do your penny for your thoughts, we will do our predictions for these 4 games that are coming up this weekend. So let's talk about the other games. Let's talk about Jacksonville, how they came back and beat a Chargers team. Is it more the fact that Jacksonville came back and beat them, or the fact that the Chargers just totally laid an egg?
For me, it's the Chargers laying an egg. When you're +4 in the turnover, there's no reason why you should lose that game. But I felt like they got a little bit conservative at what they were doing offensively, and they were, instead of playing to win in the second half, they were playing not to lose, and it came back and it bit them. Right. And so, was it a unbelievable comeback or an awful collapse? And I look at it as an awful collapse on the Chargers' point because all they had to do was essentially take the ball and match one of their scores.
Yep.
Because they had to basically score every possession to get back in the game. All you had to do is one of those possessions, kick a field goal, score a touchdown, and it's game over. There's just not enough time. And so I call that one of the epic collapses, probably next to that Chiefs-Colts game and the Bills-Oilers game. Right,
absolutely. And I'm going to use the Broncos game this year against the Chiefs. Chiefs were up 27-0. Mahomes was turning the ball over. That gave Denver the opportunity. Now, I know Denver didn't win, but the Chargers, they didn't turn the ball over. They didn't make no mistakes. They didn't screw up on special teams. They just got beat. And when I saw that they had scored the touchdown just before the end of the first half, I was like, all they have to do is score 3 more touchdowns and 3 extra points, and they've got the lead. And that's what happened. And how much of that do you blame on the head coach?
Enough of the blame, because at the end of the day, you're responsible. The buck stops with you. No, you don't play. Players play, but you put them in a position to be successful. You put them in a position to execute and make some adjustments somewhere along the way. I always tell them it is in-game adjustments for me that separates coaches. And for me, they made no in-game adjustment once the momentum went the other way.
And the fact that Bosa did his little whiny moments, I could not even see Jacksonville doing something like that, because It goes all back to coaching. You know, you had Doug Peterson. That is part of the reason why they came back and won. You never see an Andy Reid's team do that. I guarantee you would have all the captains, Kelsey, Mahomes. They would make sure you didn't do something, and he did it twice. That was the whole thing. So you were held. Isn't every single play you're held going out for a pass, you're held going to rush the passer, and to act like that, it shows the immaturity of the Chargers. And as long as Brandon Staley is the head coach, they will never, ever, ever challenge the Chiefs in taking over in that AFC West division.
Mm-hmm. I couldn't agree more. And so, like I said, he's been the guy that people want to give him a pat on the back and call him a stroke of genius because he goes for it in fourth and unique situations. But at the end of the day, when you don't hold, let me ask you this: who did you hold responsible when the Patriots came back to beat the Falcons in the Super Bowl?
Kyle Shanahan. Well, and Dan Quinn. Wasn't Dan Quinn the head coach?
Was the head coach?
Yeah, the coach.
So why are we any different in this situation?
Exactly. I totally agree with you. So Jacksonville will play the Chiefs, and we will talk about that a little bit later. Now we have San Francisco. They played Seattle. They had played them for a third time. A lot of people think that you struggle in winning the third game after you sweeping. Well, I've got a stat here. Since the 1970 merger of the AFL NFL, there's been 23 games, and I'm assuming it's counting also the 49ers. They are 14-9 in that third game, so they win more than they lose. So
the team that's won too.
The team that's swept has won the third game.
We've always said that it's tough, not impossible.
Right. So
to beat a team, if you're just superiorly better than that team, I can go back to the '92 Cowboys. Played the Eagles 3 times. Played them in the first round of the playoffs and beat them.
Right.
It's not like that. But I also remember the 2007 Cowboys, who were the number 1 seed, had beaten the Giants twice, and then the Giants beat them, 35-31 in Dallas, before they go on to then upset New England in their undefeated season.
Right, absolutely.
Sometimes it is.
Right, exactly. So, and then you've got San Francisco, they're playing Dallas, and then you've got Minnesota, who Kirk Cousins proved to me what he is. As Dennis Green would say, he is what he is. And he was 12-30 in Showtime, and now he is 12-31. And the Giants played a great game. They had the defense was just totally just dominating, and Kirk Cousins, even though that was Michael Irvin's MVP of the league, just never showed up.
Well, he's historically struggled in big games. Here was the thing, right? They got the ball one last time, and it's 4th and 8, and you dump it off at 3 yards where this guy basically has no time. Where is the same throw that you threw into triple, quadruple coverage against the Bills to Justin Jefferson?
Mm-hmm.
And you went up and let him make a play, and he went up and snags and takes the ball away from the defender. How does a ball not get directed at that guy unless somebody else is just so wide open? But you got to throw the ball beyond the sticks.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And to me, those are things that, for me, why Kirk Cousins will always be just what he is, a serviceable NFL quarterback.
Absolutely. And if he throws it to Jefferson and they don't get the first down, hey, you took your best play against your best player, and you took your chances. Okay, that happens, but most of the time he's gonna make that play, And his excuse why he didn't throw it to him because he was covered. Are you serious? I mean, he's been covered all year long and led the league in receiving yards. So, but the Giants make it the third NFC East team to be in the playoffs. Now, the last time that happened was in, do you know?
Actually, it was probably 1992.
Nope.
No?
Nope. It's a little closer this way.
Okay.
I'm going to give you a hint.
All right.
It was it was a quarterback who finally got his Super Bowl.
Oh, was it Peyton?
Nope.
Wasn't Peyton Manning?
Nope. 1997. It was John. It was the year John.
Elway. Okay.
But it was the Detroit Lions, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and the Green Bay Packers.
That were all in the last.
They were all in the division. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So yeah, and then San Francisco defeated, Green Bay defeated San Francisco, and then Denver edged Pittsburgh, and went to the Super Bowl. So it's been a long time since you've had three teams in there. And it is ironic considering the fact that all year, or at the beginning of the year, they were considered the worst division in football. Now they've just totally put their stamp on as the best division in football. So
it wasn't that long ago when everybody was calling it the NFC least.
I did it. I was. Hey, look, I was the president. Not only was I the president, I was a customer too. So
it was because of, especially in 2019 in particular, where Philly won the division with a 9-7 record, and it looked like 8-8 was going to win the division.
Yeah.
And so, but I always tell them it goes in cycles.
It does.
It goes in cycles because we remember just a couple of years ago the NFC South looked really strong, and now this year it was the, I don't know what the nickname is for the NFC South, but it was bad.
Well, it's not the best. Let's just put it
the NFC gone south.
Yeah, gone south. Absolutely. So the other two games from the AFC, you have Buffalo playing Miami, and Buffalo did everything possible to give the game to Miami, and the head coach did everything possible to say, no, I don't want it. I just couldn't understand the time management. You have a third string quarterback who is his first rookie, or his first playoff appearance, and he needs the coaching more than ever to help him out. And the coaching never did. They allowed Buffalo to walk away with that victory.
Yeah, I mean, I have some empathy for Miami in that, they weren't able to really have, except for early in the year, any continuity at quarterback. They were constantly, basically they were on their fourth quarterback this year, playing in that game. And like you said, were it not for the turnovers, and I don't know so much I call them Buffalo turnovers as I call them Josh Allen turnovers that made a game out of it. And so, it is what it is. I would like to see that team, have somebody back there who can be back there for all 17 games, or at least the majority of those 17 games, so that they can some continuity and to be able to use the weapon that they have, offensively, especially in the receiver game. And so Thompson did the best that he could, but you really, in this day and age, you don't want somebody basically starting for the first time in a playoff game, because they're not going to be able to make a play late in the game just because they don't have the experience to be able to do that,
right,
unless something really fluky happens. And so, but I expected Buffalo to win, and I really didn't expect it to be as close as it was. And I think at this point they have their eyes on two teams, really, on the Bengals and on the Chiefs.
Yep, absolutely. So speaking of that, they will welcome the Bengals in to Buffalo on Sunday. And Cincinnati also squeaked out a victory to Baltimore based on virtually one play. It was dead even. They were virtually dead even with the exception of the one play. And you have two guys behind you that's going to push you. Why are you trying to jump the ball like Walter Payton did, except for the fact he didn't get a running start?
He saw somebody else do it, right? We've seen Josh Allen and some other guys do the same thing. The difference was he was a full 1.5 to 2 yards away from the goal line. It wasn't inches.
Mm-mm.
If it's inches, it's a touchdown.
Yep.
But because it wasn't inches,
Right.
it's a fumble. And to that point, the guy runs it all the way back. It really was a game of inches, because if that ball takes one hop the other way, the running back actually gets his hands on the ball, and maybe they still have him. Maybe they go and tie the game up, and we see what happens from there. But you feel for Baltimore a little bit too, because at the end of the day, when we're talking about the playoffs and we're talking about evenly matched teams, health matters, and them not having Lamar down the stretch was huge,
Right.
because are they trying to go up the middle if Lamar's in there? Probably not. They're making them defend the whole field because of the speed and quickness and elusiveness that he has.
Right.
And it gives them a chance to look at it very differently. But at the end of the day, if you're not going to push the guy, give the ball to your running back and let Dobbins or one of those guys punch it in.
Yep, absolutely. Saying that, do you think Lamar Jackson will be coming back to Baltimore?
I don't see how he can't come back to Baltimore. I think right now it's been ugly, and it's finna get uglier. Unless they're going to write him a check for about $200 million right now, I don't see him coming back. I think his services will be somewhere else. The hard part for them is they need to pony up, because they've built their offense and everything around his skill set.
Right.
And they don't have really what he needs. I still don't think they have it on the outside as far as receivers go. When your best receiver is
Your
Andrews,
tight
the tight end, then it makes it a little bit difficult based on his skill set. That's not the same skill set that Mahomes has. And so I think he's gone. I think he's gone.
I can't see how you can give a quarterback, and he's still young, which ironically he is the same age as the Georgia Bulldog quarterback who just won his second national championship. So at 25 years old. But at 25 years old, he seems like he's 35 because he's always injured. And unless he changes his style and changes his health regimen, he's just going to continue on not producing at the end of the year like he has the last 2 years.
The question is, could he really truly have come back? Okay, or had he dug his heels in and say, yeah, I probably could, but why should I when I still don't have a contract?
But that's on him.
Regardless, when should he have been paid?
At the beginning of this year.
He should have been paid before the year. He really should have been paid after he won the MVP, because every year you wait after that, the price goes up.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, and so who are they mad at? They're mad at Cleveland.
Right.
The Ravens are mad. Every time that owner sees that owner at the owners meeting, he wants to go up and punch that guy in the mouth for giving Deshaun Watson all that, because this guy's been in trouble. He's set out a whole year. He's got all that money.
Right.
My guy's been a model citizen.
He has. He's
played hard. He's got an MVP in his pocket.
Yeah, he does.
So at that point, when they're going to the bargaining table, that's exactly what everybody sets a market, right? It's always here, right? And everybody was kind of riding there at about 20, 25 million. And then all of a sudden, Minnesota gave Kirk Cousins all of that money guaranteed. It was $84 million, but it was fully guaranteed.
Absolutely.
Then next thing you know, the Rams are giving Goff money, and the Eagles are giving Carson Wentz money.
Yep.
Okay. And so old Mr. Prescott says, whoa, Jerry, the price just went up. Because he could have signed him sooner than he signed him.
Yep.
When you weight ownership, guess what you get? You get a guy that says, here's where the market is. Now, everybody's trying to say, well, why can't y'all do like Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes and take a little bit less? And he's saying, I don't have all of the national endorsements money that they have.
No.
And so this is where I'm at. I'm not comparing myself to them. I'm comparing myself to what Cleveland gave to Sean.
Well, and here's the other thing. I think the Chiefs have given Patrick Mahomes so much respect that Patrick had no problems, paying a little bit less. But they also said, look, if I'm paying you the top dollar, it's going to be hard for us to supply you with the needs, the tools that you need to continue on having the top offense in the NFL.
Right, but from the individual's perspective, they say that's your job to manage
Right.
the salary cap.
Right.
It's my job to take care of me and my family. Now, here's the thing: there's a lot of things in Mahomes' contract where he's never going to be outside of the top 3. And so there's some things that kick in if other people get more average per year than he does.
Right.
And he falls outside of that top 3. There's some things that kick in where he's not going. So he gave up some money,
right,
but not all of it.
Oh, no.
But the length of the contract, and he controls all of the negotiables in it, and when he can determine himself as a free agent and a lot of other things. And so that's, but at the end of the day, it's all individually negotiated.
Yeah.
Everybody determines, okay, here's my number, here's your number. Let's see if we can meet somewhere in the middle. But just know this, with Lamar, every day that they wait, the price keeps going up because somebody else is going to sign another long-term deal.
Right.
That doesn't have an MVP by their name.
No.
And he's gonna say, and I've basically broken myself for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I know John Harbaugh said that he's 200% sure that Lamar will be coming back, but that will be interesting to see. And with that, we are at halftime with Any Given Sunday on KUAW. We're going to take a quick break, and we will continue back with the playoffs, the divisional rounds, which some people consider the best weekend in football. So this is Brian Kress with Coach 24 and Mr. DJ Scatter. We will be back shortly. All right, we are back for the second half of Any Given Sunday. Coach 24, Darwin Penny, across from me. We've got DJ Scatter, George Walker behind the scenes running the show, and I am Brian Kress, the awesome voice. So, the divisional rounds. We've got 4 great games playing, starting with Kansas City at Jacksonville. Now, Trevor Lawrence may have said something that is going to spark up the fans in Kansas City by saying that Kansas City fans are about as the same as the Jacksonville fans.
Well, evidently he hadn't seen what's known as Chiefs Kingdom. So, Lawrence is young. He's brash. He wants to make an impact. At the end of the day, he's a pretty confident guy. They've been throwing out his stat, especially Nick Wright, saying that he's never lost a game on Saturday, going all the way back through high school and everything like that. And so, as Nick Wright calls him, the prince that was promised. And so it's been a lot of fun watching him actually evolve this year.
Yes.
And, because there were a lot of people last year who were like, whoa, I don't know about this guy. But what he really needed was a coach with more stability and understood who he was, and you saw that team start to move forward. Midway through the year, they were one of the hottest teams in the league, closing out. And so, but with all that said, I think the experience of the Chiefs and the ability of Mahomes to play so well in big and playoff games, and overall, and Andy Reid, I just expect the Chiefs to come out with a big victory.
Right. And so if you're talking about Trevor Lawrence never losing on a Saturday, well, Andy Reid is 21-3 after a bye week. So, I mean, which one do you want to go by? A kid that's never lost in high school and college, or somebody who is established as one of the best in the game? So, I will say this: all the games, I will be shocked if any of the games are more than one score. I think they will be that good. I know the Chiefs are 8.5-point favorites. They are the highest favored team in the playoffs, but Kansas City always seems to find a way to make it more interesting than they should.
Well, the question will be, will Jacksonville try to lean on their running game with Travis Etienne? And because for me, I still have always said, don't try to go out and match the Chiefs point for point. Slow the game down, keep it under 24 to 28, whatever. We see that in the games that they lost this year. They scored 24 points or less.
Right.
And so don't try to make it a track meet. Okay, slow it down. Make it a long golf match.
Right.
And go real slow and limit the number of possessions that Mahomes has, and then just go out and hope that maybe he has one big turnover or something like that. And if you can control the running game with ATN, and then that's going to give them an opportunity to be successful in play action passing. But most teams, when they play the Chiefs and get behind, will not stay committed to the run game.
Right.
One of the few teams that did last year is Cincinnati. They've stayed committed to the run game, and they haven't been beating the Chiefs in these big high scoring, but they've had the medium level games, and when they've been able to be successful, Buffalo still had learned, we'll go toe to toe with them. Okay, well, the thing about going toe to toe with a guy in the middle of the ring is you can get knocked out.
Right, exactly.
And that's what we've seen. Go back to the Super Bowl with the Chiefs. Is you had a team that was willing to stay committed. And that's when he was playoff Lenny and able to stay committed to the running game. Even Tennessee, when they came here, they were, you got Derrick Henry, and he started getting stuffed a little bit, and they were not committed to the running game.
Right, exactly. Now, saying this, in Week 10 that the Jacksonville Jaguars came into town and played the Chiefs. Chiefs totally dominated. Mm-hmm. The problem was they kept turning the ball over, kept making mistakes, and I feel that as long as Kansas City can dominate the way that they did, because Patrick Mahomes had over 300 yards, he had 4 touchdown passes. They rushed for 155 yards to Jacksonville's 75. So they outrushed them. So they did everything right except for the turnovers. And Jacksonville, you just found out that Jacksonville can have a -5 turnover ratio and still come in and beat you.
That was the most unlikely scenario, and we've already hit on that a little bit. But again, all the Chargers had to do was just figure out one more score,
right,
and be able to do that. So that's what you saw. Even with a talented young quarterback as Trevor Lawrence is, first game playoff jitters.
Yep.
So we'll see what happens. But I like I said, this is the game that I believe the Chiefs will win by at least 10 points.
Okay. Well, I've got Kansas City 31-24. I've got them winning by 7. I think what it will do is they will dominate early, and then Jacksonville will come back. I think the key will be the Chiefs' defense, which has steadily improved over the last few weeks. So if they shut them down to 75 in Week 10, I think that they will do a good job. But saying that, this is the playoffs. This is a totally different animal. But the Chiefs have the experience, and they know what they're doing. And Jacksonville may have some small issues because of the fact of their inexperience.
I'm going to go 38-28 Chiefs.
Gotcha. So, and I'm going to write this down. So, anyway, we go to game 2 of the division round on Saturday. You got Philadelphia hosting the New York Giants. Now, they said that, Philadelphia has won their 2 games, though Philadelphia needed to win because they struggled losing the last 2. But the Giants were resting up players. So they didn't totally play their full game. It wasn't like they needed a win. They were pretty much in the same spot. Now, saying this is that the last time that New York Giants beat Philly in Philly was the 2013 season, and that year you had Chip Kelly as the head coach of the Eagles and Tom Coughlin of the Giants, and you had Michael Vick and Eli Manning as quarterbacks. But the New York Giants in the last 20 years has the best road record at 6-2.
Yeah, I think the Giants have done what you want to do as a team. They got better as the season went on. They had a little bit of a lull right in there, but they were able to have a big win over Washington because it was a matter of who was going to be that third team in the NFC East to get a playoff spot. And then once they were able to beat the Commandos, they were able to move forward. And so, they played Philly in Week 14, and it was a blowout in Philly's favor, 48-22 or something like that. But then Daniel Jones has progressively gotten better, and so I think this game will be closer than you think. I'm still not convinced that Jalen Hurts is 100%. I think there is some issues in his throwing shoulder, but that RPO is just so hard to defend at what they're able to do. If they can somehow slow him down and not allow him to have a big day with his legs, and the Giants can get Saquon going and just kind of control it a little bit, they could have a chance. But that being said, I'm going 28-21 Eagles.
Eagles?
Yeah.
You're going to go Philly.
Yeah.
I think the key to the game is, as you said, the RPO. So that means the Giants' defense, the defensive line, if they can control Philadelphia's offensive line, because Philadelphia's offensive line is one of the best in the NFL, which is part of the reason why Hurts has had his great year and the RPO has done as well as it has. I think the Giants' defensive line will help Philadelphia, and I really think I think, and as long as Daniel Jones does not turn the ball over, if he has been playing the way he has, like Minnesota, he didn't turn the ball over. He hasn't really turned the ball over. He's been a great manager, and he has a great running back. To me, is a better running back than any Eagles running back has. And so with that, I am going to say it is going to be a 26-24 victory, the Giants.
Wow. Now, that's a bird out on a limb right there, which I hope you're right, and then I hope the Cowboys win. And then the NFC Championship game could
It'll be in Dallas. There you go. There you go. So now this has to be the game of the weekend. Cincinnati at Buffalo. Monday night, they didn't have it for obvious reasons. Hamlin, yes. I mean, but now they have to play this game. There is no ifs, ands, or buts. There's no canceling it, no nothing. Hopefully nothing like what happened ever happens again. But saying that, who do you have going, and what is the key to this game?
The key to this game is going to be, can the Bills establish any kind of running game outside of Josh Allen? They have leaned on him far too long in the running game, and it's just going to come back to bite him, because what's going to happen is he's going to turn the ball over in the running game trying to make a play, because he doesn't like to slide. He doesn't like to run out of bounds, because he's bigger than a lot of the DBs once he gets elevated in the secondary. So I think that's going to be the key, Ben. But I'm picking the Bengals because of Burrow. I just think Burrow's he stays so calm and collected back there in the pocket, and him going on the road with his just confidence that he exudes, I think carries over into their team. The other key is going to be how they match up with Stephon Diggs. Stephon Diggs is a handful of trying to be covered, and so can they do that? But I think it's going to be key for them to get some production, Buffalo, in their running game outside of Josh Allen, and so I think that's going to be the key. But with that said, I'm going to go 35-31 Bengals. For all you Cincinnati fans that used to be called the Bungles,
yep,
aren't you happy?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, and I totally agree with you. Whether you like him or not, Joe Burrows is Joe Cool. I mean, he is the next coming of Joe Montana. And
he's like Joe Montana and Joe Namath all rolled into one.
He is.
On the field, he's like Montana, but them clothes and that player style he got, that is straight up Namath, Broadway Joe, baby.
He does. And here's the key to me. It's the Buffalo defense. It's not necessarily the the Buffalo's offense. It's the Buffalo's defense. Can they stop Cincinnati? They didn't do a good job stopping Miami, and Miami really didn't have that great of an offense, and yet they played well enough to beat Buffalo. And Cincinnati's is much better. You've got three great wide receivers, one of the best tandems in football, and you got two good running backs. You got Joe Mixon and Perrine. I think I said that right. P. Ryan. And
what part of the country you're in.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. But they, Joe Burrow, and then you've got Joe Burrow, Joe Cool, who doesn't get flapped at all about anything. And here is another stat that I have. The Bengals are 2-0 against Buffalo in the playoffs. Would you like to know what years those were?
I'm going to say 1980. And what, last year?
Nope. It was 1981 and 1988. And what happened in those 2 years?
Both those years, Cincinnati lost to the 49ers.
In the Super Bowl. Absolutely. They beat Buffalo, but they lost to that. And so, and as much as I hate to see that, I could see Cincinnati beating Kansas City the next week and playing San Francisco again in the Super Bowl. So, but I do have 31-27 Cincinnati over the Buffalo Bills. And even if Hamlin is at the game, I think they've used so much energy on his misfortunes and trying to spark that up, but I think that it will come to an end. Now the game of the NFC, the Cowboys going to San Francisco. Now the Cowboys are 5-3 in the playoffs against San Francisco, starting back in, I believe it was 1971 when 70.
Yep, 1970.
When John Brody was the quarterback of the 49ers.
Right, and Craig Morton actually was a quarterback of the Cowboys. And so last year they played for the first time where in the playoffs where it wasn't an NFC championship game. All their other playoff games had been NFC championship games. 5 of the games that they've played have been in San Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
Dallas is 3-2 on the road in the playoffs in San Francisco, with them winning in 71, 70, 71, and then again in 1992.
Right.
Until last week was their last road playoff win.
Exactly.
When they went out there as an unheralded. And so there's been some unbelievable games in the series. One was a huge comeback by Roger Staubach in the 1972 divisional round. So I'll go back and correct that. So and they wind up winning 30-28. The Cowboys they were down 14 with about 3 minutes left to go, and Roger rallied the team back. So, but with that said, it's going to be a very, very difficult game. The key to Dallas' success in winning this game is going to be their ability to not turn the ball over, which they've been really good in the running game. Man, I don't think either one of those guys has a fumble this year as far as the running backs, Pollard or Zeke. Can they establish that running game? Can they run for about 140 yards between those two guys? And then the other key will be, can they rattle that rookie quarterback, Micah Parsons, which he'll have his work cut out if they line him up in the same spot every time. My hope is that Dan Quinn will do like he originally did with him and move him around, but don't just put him in one spot, because he would be going up against arguably the best left tackle in the game.
Right.
And so, make him move him around, make them always have to identify where he is on the right, whether he's on the left, whether he's blitzing from the middle. And then another unsung hero was huge this week in coming back, and he was really, really criticized for a while. But Leighton Vander Esch has been huge in run stopping. He's had a really, really solid year this year, and it was huge this past Monday night with him coming back and being a stopper in the run game. And so San Francisco has the most creative run game in all of football.
Right.
And so with the way they put people in orbit motion and everything else, get their receivers in the running game with Debo, all those type of things. But can you just control them, keep them to where, I'm going to say under 100 yards, and then make a few plays. Diggs needs a pick. I think Dallas is probably going to have to score to win the game. They're going to probably have to have an unconventional score, whether it's from the defense, scoop and score, pick six, or even Turpin in the kicking game.
Right.
They need something that will shift the momentum their way, and then get that rookie quarterback rattled.
Right. Exactly. And I think the same thing. You always say, well, yeah, he's played well, but he's a rookie. Look, he's played well, but this will probably be the best defensive rush that he will face this year in the playoffs. Now, saying that, they have won the last 11. Purdy is 6-0 and Garofalo was 5-0. The defensive line is going to be huge, and Dak Prescott has to be aggressive without being dangerous. And I'm saying this in a positive way. If he gets dangerous, then he starts turning the ball over. But if he gets aggressive, positively aggressive, like he did against Dallas or Tampa Bay, I think this is what will help them push through and get by with San Francisco. I've been going back and forth. Do you have a pick yet?
Yep.
Okay. You give me your pick.
31-28 Cowboys.
I'm thinking it's going to be a lower score. I think it's going to be 21-17, and Dallas is going to have to score a last-second touchdown. But I do have Dallas going against San Francisco.
Man, if your predictions come through, man, this is going to be NFC Championship game in Jerry World.
I'm telling you, and I will ask you, how happy are you now?
I'll be really, really happy.
Yes, I know. So, but anyway, so we've had a great show, but the best has not happened yet. So we're getting ready to do it now with Penny for Your Thoughts.
Obviously, this past Monday was the King holiday, and where we were able to celebrate the life, the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King. And with all that has transpired over this last year, it just made me go back and think about, and I love to go back and listen to some of his speeches and go through some of his quotes. And one of my favorite ones is what I want to leave you with today. And this is the quote from Dr. King. He says, "In the end, we will remember not the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends." And too many times in our world, it's the people closest to us that haven't stuck up for us, haven't made themselves available, and have not allowed what's right to come forth. Because when you see wrong and then you don't call it out and you call yourself my friend, then that's very, very difficult. But we expect one thing from our enemies, okay, but we expect more from our friends. And so with that, if you see injustice anywhere, it's a threat to justice everywhere. That's also another one of Dr. King's quotes.
Yep.
But the one I want to, in the end, remember, it is not the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends. If you see something that is unjust, don't be silent about it. Stand up for it, and especially when it's of those that are your friends.
Absolutely. And you could not have said that any better from a man that he was a tremendous man, and he did not get enough credit, and it's amazing. He still didn't get enough credit that he should have gotten. And so and we are towards the end of our show. Real quick, we have a minute or two. I was hoping we would do this perfectly timing, but we didn't. Do you think Peterson is NFL Coach of the Year? And if not, who do you think?
Coach of the Year, I'm going to give to the Giants head coach,
Brian Daboll.
Brian Daboll. Okay, he gets on my nerves with a little bit of his emotion, but what he was able to do with Daniel Jones alone, for me, makes him Coach of the Year.
That'll work. So I totally agree with you, but I'm going to give it to Peterson for what he did to the worst team in the NFL last year, and they were a complete mess, to a team that has a fighting chance at beating the number one seed, the Chiefs. So when you can do that, yeah, you earned it too. And with that,
MVP.
Oh, Mahomes. There is nobody. There's nobody. I mean, he performed. You know, everybody said without Tyreek Hill, he was nothing, and he proved wrong. So, with that, with Coach 24, Darwin Penny, and behind the scenes, DJ Scatter, George Walker, I am Brian Kress, the Awesome Voice. This is Any Given Sunday on KUAW, and with that, be awesome, not angry, and you guys have yourself a phenomenal football weekend.